Meet Erick. He's our leading man. As an action verb, he brings the vocabulary, physical movement, and core meaning to the screen. When English learners first start speaking, they tend to put their trust in verbs like Erick. They know the word for the action, so they assume that word alone can handle every part of the sentence. But watch what happens when an action verb tries to ask a question or form a negative statement on its own. Without help, the structure shatters. That brings us to banana. She's an auxiliary verb. While she rarely gets the spotlight, she provides the structural foundation that keeps the English language upright. Action verbs provide the vocabulary, but they possess no structural integrity. In conversational English, these stars cannot function without their unseen helping verbs. Let's look at their first structural challenge, time travel. Erick wants to talk about what he did yesterday, but on his own, he is locked in the present tense. The auxiliary verb fixes this. By stepping in with a helper like did or was, banana physically slides the action along the timeline into the past. Notice how the tense marker transfers to the auxiliary, allowing the main verb to reset. Moving through time is difficult, but building a proper question requires completely different mechanics. To ask a standard yes or no question, the sentence requires subject-auxiliary inversion. The helping verb must move to the very front of the line. Look at the sentence diagram here. The auxiliary block leaps over the subject block and locks into the starting position, completing the specific task that Erick failed to do alone. Because auxiliary verbs control time and sequence, the reality of a sentence depends entirely on them, not the action verb. Conversational English gets even more complicated when we add nuance, obligation, or probability. Expressing those ideas requires a specific subset of auxiliaries called modals. This scale shows how a single word change shifts the stakes. Swap can for should, or should for must, and you change the emotional tone of the action without changing the action itself. Then there's a practical problem, efficiency. Repeating the full action phrase every time you answer a question sounds robotic and unnatural. Instead of repeating a clunky sentence, the auxiliary verb shrinks the response. A two-word short answer, like yes I do, represents the entire phrase, acting as a functional shortcut. And if you need to add stress to a statement, you deploy the emphatic do. It allows you to assert a point forcefully while keeping your core vocabulary exactly the same. Refining these shifts in modals and helping verbs creates the natural conversational flow and emotional precision that a solo action verb simply cannot provide. At the end of the season, both verb types have to share the couch. They are bound together in a mandatory partnership. Fluency requires this division of labor. The action verb delivers the meaning, while the auxiliary handles the structure, time, and mood. You cannot speak in structurally sound sentences until you understand how to let the helping verbs work behind the scenes. Let's test that partnership with one final challenge. Take the action verb subscribe. Combine it with a modal of advisability. What do we get? You should subscribe. Correctly layering structure over action turns a list of vocabulary into a sentence that actually holds together in conversation.